Hello children, your exams are fast approaching, and to help you with the same, we have got NCERT solution for combustion and flame class 8. The first question that is asked is list conditions under which combustion can take place. So the conditions under which combustion can take place are: first, you need a combustible substance or a fuel. So let's write this: conditions under which combustion can take place. Number one, we need presence of combustible substance, combustible or fuel, okay? Combustible substance or fuel. So you can write it as fuel, but combustible substance will also do. And then you need oxygen, presence of oxygen. And third, you need ignition temperature. Ignition temperature. So you need three conditions mostly, because you need a combustible substance or a fuel, you need oxygen, and you need ignition temperature, the minimum temperature at which it will catch fire. Now, second is a fill in the blanks. Burning of wood and coal causes pollution of air. That's a very simple one. The tricky one is the second one, the B option. A liquid fuel used in home is. Now, all of us are tempted to write LPG at the very first instance, but LPG is a gaseous fuel transported as a liquid. Right, and as soon as your mother opens the knob, it again comes back, turns into gas, and she is using a gaseous fuel. Liquid fuel has to be kerosene. Okay, kerosene is the liquid fuel that we use at homes. Yeah, I know many of our household do not use it, but then there are still many households that are still using kerosene for various purposes. Fuel must be heated to its ignition temperature. Ignition temperature. Now, the temperature, minimum temperature is required for combustion to start, and that is ignition temperature. Fire produced by oil cannot be controlled by water. Now, water is a coolant, but we cannot use it to control fire out of oil, because then oil is lighter than water and it will start spreading. The fire will start spreading. Third question: how the use of CNG in automobiles has reduced pollution in our city? So it's a very simple but very effective question. CNG does not leave any solid residue, nor does it pollute the air. Nor does it pollute the air, as CNG produces smokeless flame. Thus, CNG has reduced pollution in cities. Pollution in our cities. Compare LPG and wood as fuel. Now, this is a very big initiative. Now, more and more kitchens are using LPG instead of wood as fuel. So, how is LPG better? LPG is a gaseous fuel. Wood is a solid fuel. Now that means the calorific value of LPG is much higher, right? LPG does not produce smoke and wood produces smoke. LPG is high calorific value and calorific value of wood is comparatively much smaller. It is easily stored in cylinders as it is transported to our houses, right? And it requires more space to store. It does not cause any pollution. LPG is a clean fuel, but wood is causing pollution. Coming to the fifth question, water, give reasons, and give reasons are always a very important question in a science paper. Water is not used to control fire involving electrical equipments. So for this, water can conduct electricity. See, now distilled water cannot conduct electricity, but water, general water that comes in our taps and that are used to extinguish fire, will conduct electricity, can conduct electricity, and thus it cannot be used to control fire. Fire involving electrical equipments. Now, you don't want anyone to get electrocuted. And so, while it is a fire of electrical equipment, one has to be very careful. LPG is a better domestic fuel than wood. Okay, so, and this is answered in question 4. Now understand, you can't write like this in the paper. You will have to repeat this table or at least write how advantageous LPG is. But this is the same answer that you would like to give. LPG is a gaseous fuel. It does not make smoke. It has high calorific value. It is stored in cylinders and it does not cause any pollution. Paper by itself catches fire easily, whereas a piece of paper wrapped around an aluminum pipe does not. Aluminium has higher ignition temperature, and thus has higher ignition temperature, and thus paper wrapped around an aluminum pipe does not catch fire. Okay, so that was an easy question, but this experiment is very beautiful to notice under adult supervision as to how a paper which is wrapped under the wrapped with an aluminum pipe does not catch fire. Okay, now the next question is also a very important question. The next question is asking you to make a labeled diagram of candle flame. This is the sixth question, and this is mostly asked in school, or any part of this zones can be asked to explain, right? So this is the innermost zone, which is black in color because of unburned carbon particles. Then you have the middle zone. This is the middle zone, which is yellow in color because partial combustion of carbon particles takes place. And then you have the outermost zone, which is bluish in color, right? Which is bluish in color. And thus it is actually giving you the maximum amount of heat. And it is also blue because all carbon particles are being combusted here. Okay. Coming to the seventh question. Name the units in which the calorific value of a fuel is expressed. Now, see, calorific value can be defined as the heat produced when 1 kilogram or 1 gram of fuel is burned in presence of oxygen, right? So it's a very simple but very interesting question. So what do you need to understand is, now you have kg, that is the mass that is burning, kg, but kilojoules is the unit in which you will have the heat produced. So kilojoules per kg is the unit in which the calorific value of a fuel is expressed. It can also be expressed in joules per gram. Right, children? So joules per gram can also be used as a unit for calorific value. Coming to the eighth question, explain how CO2 is able to control fire. CO2 is one of the best extinguishers used. So the question is asking, how does CO2 help us control fire? First, you should know CO2 is heavier than oxygen. So let's write this. CO2 can control fire as, first, it is a non-combustible gas, unlike oxygen. ये आग बुझाता है. It's a non-combustible gas, and sorry about that. So it is a non-combustible gas. It is heavier than oxygen. It is heavier than oxygen, and thus covers the fire like a blanket and cuts off the contact between oxygen and fuel. Now the third question, CO2 is kept in liquid form in cylinders, and whenever you allow it to expand, it will cool down. It cools down the temperature. So CO2, when released from cylinders, cools down the temperature. Now you have to understand, it is stored as a liquid. So when it is released as a gas, it expands and thus it cools down the temperature there, and it is helpful. Ninth. Now in questions, you're supposed to use point-wise answers as much as you can. That helps you get better marks, right? It is difficult to burn a heap. Ninth question. It is difficult to burn a heap of green leaves, but dry leaves catch fire easily. Explain. Now, green leaves have a lot of moisture in them, right? Green leaves have a lot of moisture or water content in them and thus it does not catch fire easily, or rather, it does not catch fire. Dry leaves, dry leaves do not have water oblique moisture in them, and therefore it catches fire easily. Catches fire easily. Coming to the 10th question. Which zone of a flame does a goldsmith use for melting gold and silver, and why? So obviously he uses the outermost zone of the flame to and you know why? Because it is the area zone where you have the maximum heat. So let's write the answer. Goldsmith uses the blue zone or the outermost zone of the flame to melt gold and silver. This is because blue zone undergoes complete combustion. Complete combustion. And obviously produces more heat. Now you must understand, for to help them with this, they use a thin capillary tube and blow in oxygen so that more oxygen is provided to the flame and their work gets done easily. Now the 11th question has high probability of occurring in your exams. This is a numerical, and this is usually asked as one bit of a question in your half yearly or your annual exams. In an experiment, 4.5 kilogram of a fuel was completely burned. The heat produced was measured to be 180000 kilojoules. That's a good amount of heat that is being produced. Calculate the calorific value of the fuel. Now, it is a maths question like you do for your unitary methods. That is how you are supposed to be solving this question as well. 4.5 किलोग्राम से इतना तो 1 किलोग्राम से कितना is the question, right? So you should write 4.5 kilogram of fuel produces kilojoules of heat. Thus, 1 kilogram will produce 180,000 divided by 4.5, which is equal to 40,000 kilojoules per kg, and this is your calorific value. Calorific value. Okay. So this question, 11th question, has a high probability of being asked in your exams. The 12th question, Abida and Ramesh were doing an experiment. Abida and Ramesh were doing an experiment in which water was to be heated in a beaker. Abida kept the beaker near the wick of the yellow part of the candle flame. Ramesh kept the beaker in the outermost part of the flame. Whose water will get heated in a shorter time? So we all know that Ramesh Ramesh, has a setup which produces maximum heat and thus as a setup which produces maximum and heat, thus the water will get heated soon. The water will get heated soon. Ramesh is using the outermost part of the flame and thus he will get maximum heat. So Ramesh has a setup which produces maximum heat and thus the water will get heated soon. He is using the blue zone which produces maximum heat. Abida uses a zone of partial combustion that is the yellow zone, and thus she will not be able to get the water heated sooner. Now you can use your own language for this, but then this is the answer where you have to mention that the blue zone gives maximum heat and the yellow zone does not give that as much heat as required. So that's all in this chapter, children. All the best for your exam. Please do practice as much as you can. Thank you.